Welcome to Ember Weekend. I'm Chase McCarthy.
And I'm Jonathan Jackson.
And good news, Ember 2.0 beta's out.
Ember 2.0!
So everybody upgrade.
Did we cue the fake applause, or are we going to hold off on that this week?
I think we're having a fake crowd roaring Coliseum.
Ooh, that's good. That's really good. So Ember 2.0 beta was released, and the 1.13 release was cut as well. So there's a lot of new stuff if you're an Ember user, a lot of things to cover. We're going to try to go through as many of the changes as we can on this episode, and maybe we'll get to some other stuff. Yeah, so, obviously the changes that you're probably already familiar with, the first one being the new rendering engine, Glimmer.
You have Glimmer by default.
Yeah, Glimmer by default. I saw a benchmark or a side-by-side of that benchmark thing they mentioned in EmberConf, and yeah, it's a notable improvement. Glimmer is not just about performance, it's also about utilizing some HTML bars features so that they're able to do some cool things with the
upcoming web components and things. Like they could under the hood, they could swap out using native templates or native shadow DOM, right from underneath this. If there's a standard change, Glimmer is the place where they would make the change.
Right. Yeah, so there's a new helper API. Basically, in the release, they were basically saying that the API for helpers has been kind of muddled over the time because it's one of those things that you can very easily kind of forget about, and then you utilize, you just use them whenever, a very specific instance comes up, and they haven't really needed to be changed very much. So this is kind of like a new API to kind of help narrow the focus of what a helper's responsibility is. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the next thing was we've mentioned this one time before where we needed to detect when a block was passed into a component, and we were mentioning that we were using template. We were switching off of whether a template property was available on a component, and we were actually informed that there's actually now a has block.
Yeah, and a has block param as well, so you can detect both that there was a template block given and that block has params. So you can do some really interesting things based off of whether or not you want to, yield some stuff from the parent component. Or I don't know, it's pretty neat. It's a really cool idea.
Yeah. There's also a lot of changes that were made that are only for Ember 2.0 beta. So these aren't available in Ember 1.13. And one of the really interesting ones was the ability to iterate over a plain JavaScript object and iterate over the key values.
Yeah, it's called, I think the helper was each-in. And, I thought, I just assumed that there was a way to do this. When I'm iterating over things in a template, I'll just assume that it's going to be an array, but there's no reason you couldn't be able to iterate over an object. So this is really cool. I think this is a pretty cool move in the right direction.
And you can also use another helper to get a property of an object. So there's a get helper now. So you can just say get foo and then get a property off of it, like bar.
Right, and they were saying that one of the use cases for this that would be really neat is you can pass to the key that you're trying to retrieve. You can pass a bound property to that, so you can have maybe a user reference some object in a list. And when they change that, then you can go and fetch something from an object. So kind of an interesting way to kind of help organize some access to dictionary style objects.
There were also some deprecations to 1.13. Most notably, views. All views have been deprecated.
Yeah, just don't use views. Related? Yeah, everything that has view in the name, just stay away from it. The list of views that have been deprecated or removed or made private have been. It's a very long list, and right. Yeah, and basically in all those instances, you should just use a component.
Right. So internally, link view it goes away. So what the underlying thing you were using with the link to was a link view, and now that's a link component.
Right.
And there's a ton of other ones. There's a select and things like that.
Yeah. Obviously, it makes sense that the views would go away because components satisfy that need. But I don't know. I guess I just didn't expect the deprecation.
There are also some deprecations that are specific to 2.0.0 beta. So these are basically anything that's controller related is deprecated. Along with that, needsing controllers is also deprecated. So the only controllers that aren't deprecated are routable controllers, and that's just because right now routable components haven't landed.
Right. Yeah. Definitely interesting. Basically, this one, to sum this one up, just try not to use controllers except for routable controllers.
And then there were also a bunch of things removed in 2.0 beta, which is basically anything that was deprecated in 1.13. So all the view stuff, any of the view helpers have moved into components. Also, any reference to handlebars has been dropped completely. So there's no longer an Ember.handlebars with things tacked onto it like compile.
That's pretty interesting. Is there Ember.html bars then?
Yeah, there was already an Ember HTML bars. The only reason why there were things attached to Ember handlebars was just for backwards compatibility.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Also, any variation of the bind adder without a dash, with the dash, all those have been removed.
Okay, so I know bind adder served a purpose, but good riddance, basically.
Yeah, basically.
I'm pretty psyched to see that just all mention of it be lost forever.
And speaking of good riddance, IE8 is no longer supported.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
IE9 Plus still supported on Ember 2.x, but IE8 is gone.
I wonder if they're just not running the test suite against IE8, or if there are specific things that they know will break IE8.
Like they're actively trying to break it.
I don't think you don't have to try that hard.
Right. Let's see. And then along with the release of 1.13 and 2.0.0 beta was the kind of announcement of what we can expect in 2.1.
Yeah, and 2.1 we're gonna see angle bracket components. This is pretty cool. I think these you're able to use some of this stuff right now with feature flags. Like I think you can use angle bracket components with feature flags, but in 2.1 it's going to become standard. The other notable thing that's going to happen in 2.1 is one-way data flow by default. So if you wanted to do two-way bindings, you'll actually have to prefix your helpers with like MUT for mutable, I think. I'm not entirely certain how they're going to, like what the defaults are going to be yet, but it's going to be pretty interesting. So there's a lot of movement going on in Ember right now, and I am super excited to see where this goes. I know this has been a tireless effort on the part of the core team, so kudos to them. This is super cool, and we're probably going to see a lot of them at Wicked Good, so that's going to be really exciting. Yeah, so cool. Ember 2.
So speaking of Wicked Good Ember, it's coming up in just a couple days, or tomorrow for you people listening.
Oh yeah, so Wicked Good Ember, it's going to happen on June 16th. It's a one-day conference. It's got an awesome lineup. I'm really excited.
Yeah, can't wait. There seems like there's a lot of good talks and everything lined up.
So Mike North is going to be speaking. He's a lead UI engineer for Yahoo, and his talk is called "Compose All the Things." And I am really excited about this talk. I saw a talk that he gave recently on components, and I like a lot of the stuff that he mentioned there. He was talking about, Shadow DOM and isolating your CSS and actually making components available as like HTML imports and like the future of the web. And I'm really, really excited to see this talk. So that's going to be a really cool one.
Yeah, and along with that, there was actually a couple other speakers at that same. I don't know what meetup it was, but it was all about components.
Yeah, modern web UI, I think.
Yeah, one of them was Jay Phelps, and Jay Phelps mentioned at the end of his talk, because he wasn't trying to, I think, plug this at the time, that he was working on a framework called Graffiti, which basically is a way to share web components between frameworks like React or Angular or Ember. And he mentioned that he really liked Polymer, but that there were a couple of hangups he had working at Netflix trying to use Polymer, one being performance. And he was saying this wasn't really the point of Polymer. It was more of a way to get kind of ahead of the standard, not really concerned with performance. And so what he did was he worked on getting HTML bars pulled in with JavaScript transpiler, which at the time was TypeScript, and pulled it into a library to make cross-framework shareable components. And at the time, this library wasn't open source. And he mentioned that he was trying to make it open source, trying to, kind of get it ready for the public eye. It's still not quite yet, but hopefully at Wicked Good, he'll announce, opening the source for Graffiti.
Yeah. I feel like that may be a little presumptuous, Chase.
I am always presumptuous.
Another talk is going to be by Estelle Debloy from Dockyard, and it's about building better desktop apps with Ember. And this is also going to be one of those talks that is going to be really interesting to basically kind of talk about how to build, like, what are the challenges of writing native apps, and how you can kind of utilize the power of Ember to make an app feel like it's a native app. Also, Adolfo Bulas is going to be giving a talk on Ember Watson, and we've mentioned Adolfo's project Ember Watson on past episodes. It's really, really cool. It's basically trying to automate some refactoring, some automatic refactorings, such as, I believe it was originated for use with like upgrading to the new QUnit syntax automatically, and then later to remove dot properties and some other things, dot on, all of the function prototype mixins. And this is a really cool program. So I'm interested to see, what the direction for that project is going to be. It's definitely proved useful for me on a number of projects. So very excited to see that talk as well. I'm excited to see all the talks. I should just say that.
And the next talk is going to be from John Kleinschmidt from Cure, which is a charitable hospital organization for developing countries. And it's all about using Ember offline because some of these hospitals are in remote places where network connection is really spotty. And he's talking about how to work with Ember and how to plan for being offline. We saw at the Ember Atlanta meetup, Tom Dale and Yehuda were saying that offline support was one of the kind of prime concerns coming up for Ember, along with things like Ember data. So I'm it's gonna be nice to see some of the offline support coming in.
So Nathan Hammond is going to be giving a talk called "Building for Accessibility." He works at LinkedIn, and we just had Robert DeLuca on 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And learning from him, he's very passionate about accessibility, and learning from him, it was kind of interesting to see like how many tools there are to help with accessibility and how JavaScript can work, hand in hand with an accessible website, or you can create an accessible website with JavaScript. So just knowing that those things exist, and knowing that, not the majority of developers don't know that they exist, or don't know the tools, or don't know how to make things accessible, or don't know the problems that people who have difficulty they face. I don't know, just making developers more aware of this, I think is a really big and kind of important task. So I'm excited to see this talk as well.
And the next talk is from Stefan Pinner, who now works at Yahoo, and it's called the Observer Tip Jar. Anybody who's seen some of Steph's talks knows he really hates observers and wishes they never existed. And so this is all about computed properties and how you should be using computed properties instead of observers. And I think what he's going to do is walk through. Here's a case where some people use observers. Here's a better way using computed properties.
And basically, the entire time he's just going to have a big. It's going to be like one slide, and it's just going to say never use observers, and he's just going to click between one slide and another color variant of that same slide, and so on and so on. It's going to be great. Don't use observers. Tell your kids. Another talk from Igor Terzic, and he does consulting. He's an Ember data maintainer, and he's on the core team. So Ember Data 1.0 is here, and it's and that's super exciting. So I think this talk is going to be talking about all the things that needed to happen to get that release, and then all of the things that the rest of the ecosystem had to do in order to get it ready. And then probably a good chunk of it is going to be dedicated to the new standards that they're going to put in place around the JSON API, which was shipped recently as well. So I think it's just going to be talking about, the state of the ecosystem, and then how all of these things are going to fit together, and where Ember data is going to head now that we're past one.
And the last talk of the day is going to be from Chris C. from CardStack. So the keynote he's giving is going to be about card design. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically just like a tweet or a Google Now card. It's the idea of these small summaries of information in a card format. Where all the data is kind of self-contained. And he's going to be talking about how to make this basically cross-platform, cross-framework, and work between apps.
Cool.
So it seems like it's going to be a really interesting talk, and there's some good videos and some slides from previous talks. So go check them out.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, that Wicked Good Ember is going to be really awesome, and I'm excited to see y'all there.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a handful of you. But if you didn't get the chance to go to Wicked Good this year, keep an eye out for it next year. And keep an eye out for the slides and presentations as they come up.
Oh yeah, and one last thing. Since we're going to be on the island, if you are at Wicked Good Ember, you should come and find us and grab a sticker and chat with us about kind of whatever you want.
And that's all for this Ember Weekend. I'm Chase McCarthy.
And I'm Jonathan Jackson.
And we'll see you in Boston.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm super excited. What's another way to say the same sentiment?
I'm so excited!
You listeners from the future, Wicked Good's going to be in 2 days. For us here in the past, it's going to be, I want to say, on Monday, so like 2 days from now. 3 days. It's going to be 3 days. Wow. All right, that's good stuff. That's good. It's good to know that we don't know how to deal with dates. We're programmers after all.
Well, we're using date time or using time?
Oh my God, I don't know. That's actually a really good question.